Let me say something that might shake you up before it lifts you up. Access to you should be earned, not assumed. You were not created to be common. You were not born to be a doormat in the hallway of someone else's convenience. You were born to dominate, to rule, to reign, and to walk in purpose, not to be on call for mediocrity. Access to you should be earned, not assumed. That statement isn't just about boundaries, it's about identity. You were created with intention, purpose, and divine design. Every ounce of your time, energy, and presence carries weight. But when you live like access to you is free and automatic, you unintentionally devalue the very gift of who you are. You become available on demand, and that demand begins to wear down your self-worth, your vision, and your clarity. You must understand, not everyone is qualified to experience the depths of your spirit, your wisdom, or your presence. There are people who come into your life only to consume, not to contribute. They want the benefits of proximity, but they haven't earned the right to be close. That doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you wise. Even the most powerful resources on earth are protected. You can't walk into a vault and grab gold just because you felt like it. And you, my friend, are more valuable than gold. When you make yourself too accessible, you become familiar, and familiarity breeds contempt. People stop appreciating what they think they can always reach. They stop respecting what they feel entitled to. They begin to treat your time as something they can borrow without asking, and your energy as something they can drain without consequence. And the danger is, if you let it continue, you start treating yourself the same way, casually, carelessly, and without intention. There's a lie many of us were taught, especially those with a heart to serve, that we must always be available, that our love, our help, our attention should be limitless and unconditional. But wisdom teaches us something different. Love can be unconditional, but access is not. You can love someone deeply and still deny them access to your space, your energy, or your time. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks that open only with the right key. And that key is honor. If someone does not honor your presence, your vision, your values, or your mission, they are not entitled to your time. Too many people have keys to doors they were never meant to walk through. They entered in moments of weakness, of guilt, or of fear of being alone. But just because someone was given access during a vulnerable season does not mean they are meant to stay when you step into your purpose. You are not a convenience store open 24/7. You are a temple, a sacred space, a vessel of purpose. That means your doors open for those who come with respect, alignment, and intention. Your availability should not be based on people's urgency, but on your discernment. Not everyone who knocks should be let in, and not everyone who calls deserves a response. You owe it to your calling to protect your capacity. Because when your time is spread too thin, your purpose gets diluted. When your energy is constantly siphoned by people who take but never pour back, you start running on empty. And when you're empty, you can't serve the people you're actually called to help. You're not just wasting time, you're mismanaging destiny. You're allowing noise to drown out your divine instruction. We must stop confusing being nice with being available. You can be kind and still say no. You can be generous and still hold back access. You can be loving and still protect your time. It's not about building walls to keep people out. It's about raising your standards so that only the aligned come in. Because when you make yourself overly accessible, you lose the power of your presence. Your presence should be a privilege. When you walk into a room, something shifts. When you speak, clarity comes. When you show up, value is added. But none of that happens if you've let yourself become so common that your presence is taken for granted. You were never meant to be everyone's go-to. You were meant to be called upon with respect, with honor, with intention, So when you start shifting your mindset from I have to be available to I have to be intentional, everything changes. You begin to attract people who see your value. You begin to create space for higher assignments. You begin to walk in power rather than in pressure. And you stop letting others dictate how and when you show up. Because access to you was never supposed to be assumed. It was always meant to be earned. Scarcity increases value. Don't be everywhere, be where you're called. This is not just about being selective with your time. It's about moving with divine precision. When something is always available, it becomes ordinary. When something is always seen, it stops being noticed. And when someone is always accessible, they start being taken for granted. You were not designed to be scattered across every opportunity, every platform, every conversation. You were designed for strategic placement, divine alignment, and intentional presence. When you're everywhere, you're diluted. Your message loses weight. Your presence loses power, and your identity gets stretched to fit environments you were never meant to occupy. Just because you can show up somewhere doesn't mean you should. There's a difference between being available and being effective. Some of the most anointed people lose their edge because they confuse motion with mission. But activity is not always productivity. And being seen is not the same as being impactful. Scarcity is not about hiding, it's about honoring your uniqueness. Diamonds are not found on sidewalks, oil doesn't drip from trees. The rarest and most valuable things in life are hidden in depth, in process, in patience. Likewise, your calling will often require seasons of withdrawal, of silence, of being unseen, not because you're being punished, but because God is preparing the stage and he refuses to let your value be wasted on people who only want to spectate, not steward. In a world that pressures you to post, to talk, to be loud and everywhere at once, the discipline of divine focus becomes your superpower. Every yes you give without discernment steals from the yes you were meant to give to something greater. You were never meant to burn out trying to be available to everyone. You were meant to light fires in specific places for specific people at specific times. That's how legacy is built, not through exposure, but through execution. Your presence is like a seed. Planted in the wrong place, it gets choked out. Planted too often in too many places, it never takes root. But planted where you're called, where your anointing is assigned, fruit begins to grow. Multiplication happens not in many fields, but in the right field. You have to ask yourself, am I sowing my presence into distraction or into destiny? There is a temptation to always say yes, to always show up, to always be seen, especially when you're building something. But real growth doesn't come from being visible, it comes from being valuable, and value is protected, not exposed. You don't need to prove your worth by your presence. You affirm your worth by your placement. You don't chase platforms. People will pull on you, invite you, want pieces of you for their gain, not always your growth. You have to be wise enough to discern the difference between an opportunity and a distraction. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it's God. Just because it makes noise doesn't mean it produces fruit. Some doors are designed to detour you, some rooms are designed to drain you, and some stages are designed to strip you of your original voice. Scarcity creates anticipation. It builds honor. It sets the tone that you are not common. You are not a free sample. You are not an open book for casual readers. You are a living word full of power, waiting for the appointed time and the right audience. And when you begin to value your own presence enough to withhold it from the wrong spaces, the right ones begin to appear. You don't need to do everything to be impactful. You just need to do the right things consistently and with conviction. You don't need to be known by everyone. You need to be known by the right people. You don't need to go viral. You need to be valuable. Your influence doesn't come from your reach. It comes from your root. And roots don't grow by moving. they grow by staying planted. If you truly want to increase your value, stop chasing the crowd. Stop trying to fill every room. Stop saying yes to what doesn't align with your assignment. Your scarcity isn't weakness, it's strategy. It tells the world, I don't go where I'm wanted, I go where I'm called. Being overly available lowers your perceived worth. It's a subtle trap that often disguises itself as kindness, helpfulness, or loyalty. But in reality, it slowly chips away at how others view you, and even more dangerously, how you view yourself. When you make yourself constantly accessible, you train people to believe that your time, your energy, and your expertise come without cost. And when something is too easy to get, it rarely gets treated with respect. We've all been there, responding instantly to every message, showing up for every call, saying yes when we should have said no. At first, it feels like we're doing the right thing. We feel dependable, supportive, even admired. But slowly, the dynamic shifts. What was once appreciated becomes expected. What was once seen as a favor becomes seen as your obligation. And the more you give without boundaries, the more invisible your value becomes. People subconsciously associate value with exclusivity. Think about it. The most in-demand professionals, the most respected voices, the most sought-after mentors. They're not easy to reach. You have to book them, wait for them, prepare to speak to them. Their limited availability sends a message. This is someone whose time matters. But when you're always available, you're unconsciously telling the world, my time is cheap, and the world responds accordingly. It's not that people are malicious or ungrateful, it's that humans naturally assign less value to what they can always access. Think about your own habits. You probably treasure the friend who checks in every so often with deep conversation more than the one who texts you all day about nothing. You might admire the speaker who rarely shows up but delivers with power when they do. The principle is the same. Too much access leads to lowered impact. The danger of being overly available is that it also leads to internal resentment. You start feeling drained, overlooked, and underappreciated. You wonder why people don't reciprocate your energy or recognize your effort. But the truth is, you train them to see you as always there, always willing, always ready. And people rarely treasure what they think will never go away. Resentment grows where boundaries are absent. You must learn that availability is not the same as love. You can love deeply without being constantly present. You can support someone without answering every call. You can be generous without giving yourself away. In fact, the more you protect your presence, the more powerful it becomes when you do show up. There is strength in strategic absence. There is influence in being selectively accessible. Being too available also crowds your schedule and clouds your focus. You become reactive instead of intentional. You end up chasing everyone else's emergencies instead of building your own legacy. You put your own growth on pause because you're constantly tending to the needs, requests, and demands of others. The very people you're trying to help may be the ones keeping you stuck, not because they mean harm, but because you haven't taught them how to treat you. Every yes to others is a no to something else. And when your calendar is full of low-value commitments, there's no room for high-impact opportunities. Being overly available makes you miss divine appointments. You're so busy being present everywhere that you're not fully present anywhere. Your energy becomes divided, and divided energy produces diluted results. Excellence requires concentration, not constant accessibility. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you reduce your availability. People start listening more closely when you speak. They pay more attention when you show up. Your words carry more weight. Your presence is felt more deeply. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's understanding that your time is not an endless resource. When you treat it like it is, people will too. But when you guard it like treasure, they'll learn to honor it. Perceived worth is built not just by what you do, but by how you position yourself. You don't need to overcompensate by being everywhere and everything to everyone. You don't need to solve every problem or respond to every call. Your impact isn't in your constant presence, it's in your purposeful placement. When you stop being overly available, you don't become selfish, you become strategic. You attract what you believe you're worth, not just what you want. It's easy to write down goals, say affirmations, and declare that you want abundance, love, opportunity, or favor. But the universe, and more importantly, God, doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you deeply believe you deserve. Your life right now is a mirror reflecting not just your desires, but your sense of self-worth. You tolerate, what you chase, and what you settle for are all rooted in your internal value system. People often wonder why they keep attracting toxic relationships, low-paying opportunities, or environments where they're underappreciated. The truth is harsh, but liberating. It's not just happening to you, it's happening through you. Deep down, if you don't believe you're worthy of more, you won't create space for more. You'll self-sabotage without realizing it. You'll shrink in rooms where you were meant to expand. You'll talk yourself out of promotions, partnerships, and powerful moments because your inner narrative says, I'm not enough. Wanting something and being ready for it are two very different things. You can desire $1 million business, but if your identity still feels broke, your actions will sabotage that vision. You can want a healthy, respectful relationship, but if your self-worth is tied to trauma, you'll feel uncomfortable when someone actually treats you well. You'll find ways to create conflict, distance, or drama because peace feels foreign and dysfunction feels familiar. Your belief system is like a thermostat. It sets the temperature of your life. You might temporarily step into a higher level, but if your internal setting is still on low, you'll unconsciously cool things down until you return to your baseline. That's why transformation doesn't begin with your environment. It begins with your mindset. It begins with renewing how you see yourself, how you value your presence, and how you believe God sees you. You can't expect royalty when you see yourself as a servant. You can't expect premium results with a discount mentality. If you don't believe you're worth being pursued, you'll keep chasing. If you don't believe you're worth investing in, you'll keep settling for scraps. Your energy introduces you before your words ever do, and that energy is shaped by what you carry inside: confidence or insecurity, faith or fear, abundance or lack. The spiritual principle behind this is clear. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Not as he wishes, not as he hopes, as he thinks. You don't rise to the level of your potential, you rise to the level of your identity. If your self-talk is filled with doubt, guilt, shame, or unworthiness, that becomes the frequency you emit, and everything you attract, people, situations, outcomes, responds to that frequency, not to the highlight reel of your goals. Even your prayers are shaped by what you believe you deserve. Some people pray small, not because God is small, but because they've convinced themselves they're not worthy of more. They pray for survival instead of overflow. They ask for just enough instead of trusting for more than enough. Not because they don't want abundance, but because somewhere deep inside, they feel undeserving of it. And that hidden belief becomes a barrier, not because God can't bless them, but because they won't receive what they can't believe. You must confront every internal voice that tells you you're not worthy of the life you desire. Because until you change your inner agreement, your outer reality will stay the same. You can network, hustle, brand, post, market, and strategize, but if your identity says unworthy, all of it will fall flat. Identity is the soil where your results grow. If the soil is toxic, the fruit will never taste right. You don't get what you want, you get what your spirit believes you deserve. This is why healing is not optional, it's essential. You cannot upgrade your life without upgrading your self-esteem. You must forgive the voices that broke you, the environments that ignored you, and the past that tried to define you. And you must allow yourself to believe deeply, consistently, unapologetically that you are worthy of everything good that is meant for you. Not based on your perfection, but based on your identity as someone chosen, someone called, someone destined. The shift begins when you stop waiting for people to validate your worth and start walking in it. When you stop asking for permission to believe in yourself. When you stop hoping someone else will see your value and start deciding to live like it's already true. Because the moment your belief aligns with your vision, your life begins to rise. Not just because you want it to, but because now you finally believe you're worth it. Protect your energy by auditing who has access to you. Your energy is one of the most powerful currencies you have. It fuels your creativity, your focus, your decisions, and your direction. Yet many people give it away freely without question to anyone who asks, complains, or simply shows up. They don't realize that every conversation, every message, every visit is an exchange, either an investment or a withdrawal. When you're constantly drained, distracted, or discouraged, it's rarely just a circumstance issue, it's often an access issue. People carry energy. Some uplift, some burden. Some align and some distract. When you allow people into your space who don't value your peace, you slowly lose your clarity. You start second guessing yourself. You lose momentum. You carry weights that were never yours to bear. And if you're not careful, you begin to confuse their chaos with your calling. That's why you must become intentional about who gets a seat at your table, because not everyone is qualified to dine where destiny is being served. There are people in your life right now who have unrestricted access but offer no return. They call when they're in crisis but disappear when you're in need. They drain your emotional tank and never refill it. These people are not evil, but they're not aligned. And alignment matters. You can't build purpose-driven momentum while carrying connections rooted in dysfunction. You're not just protecting your time, you're protecting your future. Energy leaks are real. They come through conversations that leave you anxious, through obligations that make you resentful, through relationships that keep you small. You owe it to your assignment to plug those leaks. That starts with an audit, not out of judgment, but out of stewardship. Who brings clarity into your life? Who brings confusion? Who lifts your spirit? Who silently competes with you? Who celebrates you when you're not in the room? Who only claps when you're down? Your energy is your atmosphere, and your atmosphere determines your growth. Nothing can grow in a space that's constantly chaotic. Nothing can evolve when it's surrounded by unresolved tension. You must become a guardian of your atmosphere. That doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you elevate your standards. It means you stop granting backstage passes to people who only show up to critique the performance but never help build the stage. It's important to realize that just because someone has history with you doesn't mean they have a future with you. Familiarity is not qualification. Longevity is not loyalty. Some people were only meant to walk with you through one chapter, not the whole book. But because you haven't reevaluated their role, they're still present, still speaking into your life, still influencing your energy, and that influence unchecked becomes interference. You need people who protect your purpose, not provoke your pain, who speak life when you forget who you are, who correct you in love, not criticize you out of insecurity, who are committed to your elevation, not just your availability. These are the kind of people who deserve access, not just because they're positive, but because they're aligned. They know who you are and respect what you carry. Every yes you give to the wrong energy is a no to your growth. Some people thrive on drama, and if you're not careful, you'll become part of their cycle. You'll find yourself solving problems that were never yours, fighting battles that were never assigned to you, and holding space for people who wouldn't hold the same for you. This isn't about ego, it's about stewardship. You are responsible for what you allow into your space. When you protect your energy, you sharpen your focus, you hear God more clearly, you execute with precision, you attract people who are purpose-driven, not problem-centered, you stop reacting and start responding, you begin to move with intentionality, not obligation, because your energy is no longer being drained by what's beneath your assignment, it's being invested into what's aligned with your destiny. You only get one mind, one spirit, one life. Don't let it be overrun by noise disguised as necessity. You are not obligated to stay connected to anything or anyone that constantly costs you peace. Begin the audit, not from a place of bitterness, but from a place of wisdom, because anything that consistently pulls you away from who you're becoming is a threat to your calling, even if it once felt like home. You are not for everyone, and that's exactly why you're valuable. It's a truth that many struggle to embrace because it feels uncomfortable. We live in a world that often encourages mass appeal and universal acceptance. We are taught that we need to fit in, to be liked, to be seen as valuable by everyone around us, but the reality is the more you try to be everything for everyone, the less you become what you are truly meant to be. You start diluting your essence, shrinking your greatness, and denying the uniqueness that makes you remarkable. The truth is, exclusivity breeds value. Think about the rarest things in life. The rarest gems, the finest wines, the most sought after talents. They aren't valuable because everyone can have them. They're valuable because not everyone can access them. The same is true for you. Your true worth is not measured by how many people you can please or how many people can have access to your gifts. It's about how deeply you align with your purpose and how consistently you show up as the best version of yourself for those who truly need you. Not everyone is meant to understand you, and that's okay. The world is full of opinions, expectations, and judgments, but none of them define your worth. The people who align with your mission, who resonate with your energy, and who appreciate your uniqueness are the ones who matter. The others, they may come, they may go, but they don't shape your identity. If you live for everyone's approval, you will never fully step into the greatness you were born for. Your value isn't in their hands, it's in your own heart, in the vision you hold, and in the mission you're carrying. When you recognize that you're not for everyone, you begin to stop stretching yourself thin trying to prove your worth. You stop compromising your values and your boundaries just to gain acceptance or avoid rejection. Instead, you embrace the idea that your energy and your time are sacred, and only those who truly honor and appreciate your essence are worthy of them. The people who will value you are the ones who see the unique gifts you bring to the table, the ones who know your worth without needing to be told, and you don't have to chase them. They'll find you when you're authentic and unapologetic in who you are. There's a certain freedom that comes with knowing you're not for everyone. It's the freedom to stop shrinking, to stop dimming your light just to make others feel comfortable. It's the freedom to stand tall in your truth, to be unapologetic about your passions and your purpose without fear of judgment or exclusion. When you stop trying to please everyone, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters, the people and opportunities that are meant to be in your life. You stop wasting energy on what isn't aligned with your purpose, and you begin to invest in what is. Your uniqueness is a treasure, not a flaw. Every characteristic that makes you different is part of what makes you valuable. The way you think, the way you speak, the way you see the world. These are gifts that only you can bring into the world. Trying to change them to fit into someone else's mold is like taking a rare piece of art and trying to turn it into a mass-produced print. It loses its beauty. It loses its purpose, and it loses its value. You are created to be one of a kind. Embrace that truth, and the right people will find you and appreciate you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. There is power in being different. It's in the contrast, the edges, the spaces where you stand out. It's in the willingness to stand alone for a time, to say no to what doesn't serve you, and to say yes to the calling that stirs your soul. When you embrace the fact that you're not for everyone, you give yourself permission to create your own path, free from the pressure of comparison or competition. You no longer have to chase after the crowd or follow the trends. You create your own vision and invite the people who are meant to walk that path with you. Being unique doesn't mean being isolated, though. It simply means being intentional about who you allow into your circle. The relationships that matter will be the ones that resonate with the real you, not the version of you that you try to be for others. When you stop pretending to be someone you're not, you start attracting the people who are meant to share your journey, people who will celebrate your individuality and encourage your growth. You stop attracting people who drain your energy and start drawing in those who amplify your purpose. The more you align with your true self, the more you begin to realize that not everyone will get it, and that's okay. There's no need to explain or justify your path. The right people will understand it without you saying a word. You will naturally gravitate toward those who share your vision, your values, and your passion. And those relationships will be the ones that elevate you, not the ones that try to mold you into something. Embracing the fact that you're not for everyone is an act of self-respect. It's you recognizing that your time, your energy, and your presence are precious. And when you begin to guard them with wisdom and discernment, you'll see just how much more you attract what's meant for you. You'll start to realize that being selective about who has access to you is one of the most powerful ways to honor yourself and your purpose. Because when you're not for everyone, it means you're exactly who you're meant to be, for the people and the opportunities that truly matter.